Max Rokotansky is standing in a desert alone when a lizard crawls by and is caught by him, which he chews up, portraying the barbarian world he is currently in. He then quickly enters his car and drives away in a hurry, after which a group of bikes and cars follow his stead in a chase down. His car is eventually toppled and he is captured by the War Boys, who are the army of the tyrannical Immortan Joe, and taken to Joe's citadel. He is shaved and designated as a universal blood donor, but out of distress he fights off the War Boys and tries to escape. He runs from place to place, trying to escape while the War Boys chase him until he gets to a dead end of a cliff, where he is captured once more, imprisoned and used as a blood bag for a sick war boy called Nux. Meanwhile, one of Joe's lieutenants called Imperator Furiosa is sent in her armored truck called the War Rig, the small unit of war boys, to defend the War Rig to collect a large supply of fuel at a nearby community called Gastown. Joe addresses her and his war boys as they are about to take off, and after the address, he proceeds to spill huge pipelines of water, which is very rare for the people to squabble over for some minutes, then closes it. This is used to control the indigenes as form of power. Furiosa departs with the entourage whilst Joe returns to his chambers. En route to Gastown, Furiosa suddenly drives off route, therefore one of the war boys approaches and questions her, after which she claims they are to make a detour. Back at the Citadel, Joe's son is tasting milk from Joe's wives used for milking when Joe's attention is brought to Furiosa's rerouting plans by one of his sons. He rushes to his vault, being highly suspicious, to find his 5 breeder wives, who are women selected for breeding, missing, with his eldest breeder wife left in the vault. One of the war boys' most skilled drivers, called Nux, is rejuvenating with the blood from his donor Max, when he sees his colleague rush to take his steering wheel to his car. He asks his friend the occasion, and he is briefed and motivated, so headbutts his friend and takes the wheel from him to join the pursuit, with Max strapped to the front of his car to continue supplying blood. Joe leads his entire army in pursuit of Furiosa, falling on the aid of Gastown and another supply community, the Bullet Farm. As they catch up, Nux is motivated when he thinks Joe watches him, so he passionately drives ahead to catch up with Furiosa's crew to capture her first. A battle ensues between the War Rig and a group of outlaws with the sole purpose of looting from others, called the Scavenger Buzzards Gang. They fight them off using explosives stuck to an arrow set to explode upon impact. Furiosa and the War Boys fight them off. Joe's forces later arrives and helps fight off the rest of the Scavenger Buzzards Gang. This is where we see the fanatical allegiance to Joe, when one of the war boys sacrifices himself to explode an enemy car. During the fight, Max nearly loses his head to a flying decapitation because he is chained to the forefront of the car belonging to Nux. Joe's forces, Furiosa's war boys, fight off the buzzards, after which Joe's fleet then turn their attention to halting Furiosa's escape. Nux drives close to Furiosa, but she evades him and speeds off. Furiosa notices she has been stopped, so she drives into a raging sandstorm to dissuade her pursuers, evading her pursuers except Nux, who is persistent. He attempts to slow her war rig down, but she ignores. Max is put at the rear end of the car due to the approaching sandstorm, and this is where he defeats a war boy and tries to set himself free, since he's chained to Nux for blood transfusion. Fully within the fortitude of the sandstorm, Nux witnesses the death of another comrade war boys, and this motivates him the more to impress Joe by sacrificing his life to stop Furiosa. He gets closer to the war rig and spills the fuel in the car for an explosion before he could set the car ablaze. Max stops him the same time. Furiosa crashes the war rig into it. Max wakes up after the storm in confusion and distraught, and proceeds to free himself of chains, but he realizes he's chained to Nux, so he looks for a gun and tries to shoot his wrist off, and finds out that the gun is out of bullets, so he proceeds to carry Nux until he finds a better alternative. Max walks till he comes across the war rig, where he sees Furiosa repairing her truck, accompanied by Joe's 5 wives, one of whom is heavily pregnant with Joe's child. Max gets their attention and beckons them using the gun as a form of duress. He makes the pregnant wife walk over with the hose flowing with water so he could drink because he was thirsty, and after that asks the other wife to walk over with a bolt chain cutter, cut his chains. While his chains has been cut, E gets a little distracted, and that's when Furiosa attacks him. They go back and forth fighting while Nux slowly regains consciousness, after which he joins in the duel, helping Max overpower Furiosa and the Five Wives. Max eventually overpowers Furiosa, and excited Nux beams with joy. He orders Nux to break his chains free and punches him in the tummy, and proceeds to take the truck and drives away. The wives are disheartened, but Furiosa tells them not to lose hope, run after the truck. Max drives the truck for a while, then it comes to a halt, because the kill switch disables it. Furiosa catches up with Max and tries to make a deal with Max to accommodate her and the women, and in return she'll start the truck. He declines until she offers to free his chains in addition. Therefore Max reluctantly agrees to accompany Furiosa on their journey, so she enters along with the women, and they set off. Nux is left behind, bets on foot to get on the truck secretly until Joe's army will catch up. Max is very suspicious due to their previous encounter, so he surveys the whole vehicle for any hidden weapon. This is when they notice Joe's allies called the People Eater also chasing from far side. So they decide to speed up, but Furiosa notices a malfunction with the truck, so Max skeptically goes to take a look, taking with him the bag of weapons recovered. And at this point, that he is able to free himself from the face mask chained to his head. Meanwhile, Furiosa and the Five Wives are battling with Nux, who happens to be the one thwarting their escape plans by spilling their fuel gauge, slowing the truck. They eventually throw him out of the truck, where he runs to meet Joe's army. Furiosa drives through a canyon, controlled by a biker gang called the Rock Riders, to barter a deal for safe passage. She tells Max and the women to hide not to spook away her arrangement. He agrees, but stays halfway in the hiding place with the gun on Furiosa. As they approach the canyon, she asks of Max's name, which he ignores, uninterested, so Furiosa tells him to drive off with the women to safety, when he hears her shout in case her arrangement misfires, and even shows him how to start the truck. She puts a black paint over her forehead as a sign of war, ready as she drives through the canyon to meet her dealers. At the said point of location, her dealers emerge enraged. She led Joe's army their way. With Joe's forces closing in, the Rock Riders turn on her, forcing her and the group to flee, while the bikers detonate the canyon walls to stop Joe's fleet. Coming to a standstill, Joe selects a few men to muster through the rubble of the blockage with him for a head start, one of which is Nux, who reports his encounter with Furiosa, while the rest find their way through. Max and Furiosa fight off the Rock Riders together, finding solace in each other's trust for survival. Same time, Angarad, the pregnant wife of Joe, is due to conceive. The bikers attack them, slamming their truck with grenade-fitted spears, trying to slow them down and destroy the engine, but Furiosa and Max use their end-of-the-world expertise to neutralize them. Then comes Joe's car with Nux now on board, and starts attacking Furiosa's truck and Joe's son Rictus, using the flamethrower. But before they attack Furiosa, Angarad emerges from the car using her pregnancy as a shield, knowing that Joe wouldn't do anything to harm her. Therefore, Nux offers to get on board and disarm them, so Joe gives him his blessings, as a sign of honor and pistol to kill Furiosa. Nux boards the truck, trips and loses the gun and disappoints Joe. Rictus tries to derail them by shooting a harpoon-like tool, unhook their steering wheel, and this gets locked with Max's hand, so Angarad uses a bolt chain cutter to cut the chain off the harpoon. However, as the truck escapes, Angarad falls off in an attempt to protect Max and is run over by Joe's car. In pain, Joe orders some of his warboys after Furiosa while he mourns Angarad. Furiosa explains to Max that they are escaping to the Green Place, an idyllic region of fertile land she remembers from her childhood. Meanwhile, the war rigs start slowing down, so Furiosa goes to fix it, while one of Joe's wives, called Capable, goes to the rear for lookout, where Capable finds Nux hiding in the truck, distraught over his failure, and disappointed he failed Joe and missed his opportunity to join his friends in an honorable death. But she consoles him, telling him maybe it wasn't his fate to die, and they bond, forming closure. One of the wives also accounts for the remaining bullets left for protection. That night, the truck gets stuck in mud, so Max plants explosives to slow Joe's men. Joe's warboy and allies arrive to help him capture the fugitive. The People Eater complains of the fuel and resources exhausted for the chase, but his grievances are ignored because Joe wanted assurance on Angarad, an unborn child's medical state. Joe's medic, called the Organic Mechanic, tries to save the child, but it dies. Joe becomes further enraged when he learns the child was a boy. The Bullet Farmer offers to follow the war rig and kill Furiosa. That night, the truck gets stuck in mud, so they try to heave it on by putting metallic doors on the grounds to drive on. The Bullet Farmer approaches with gunshots everywhere. Max tries to snipe him from afar, but wastes 2 bullets, so Furiosa takes the sniper, shoots headlights, and blinds the Bullet Farmer. Nux helps and hints upon using a nearby dead tree and the war rig's winch to free the rig from the mud. The Bullet Farmer is blinded but shoots a hail of shots hoping to graze them, so Max and the rest of the crew run for cover, while Nux forces the truck to heave on. After extended efforts, the truck is pulled from the mud, but the engine is overheated, so the truck needs to slow down. Therefore, Max offers to confront the Bullet Farmer, to give Furiosa and the wives time to elope further. Max walks into the dark to confront the Bullet Farmer and his men, and several more explosions are heard and flashes of light are seen in the distance. Max returns splattered with their pursuers, blood carrying guns, ammunition, a boot to replace the one Nux lost, and a steering wheel, which had been lost in the battle in the desert. They drive the truck overnight through swampland and the desert. Max wakes up from a nightmare. Furiosa calms him. They have a conversation about Furiosa's destination, called the Green Place, where she tells her story of how she was kidnapped and her struggles till now. After a while, they arrive at a spot where they come across a naked woman. Max suspects a trap, but Furiosa approaches the woman and states her history and clan affiliation. The naked woman summons her clan, the Vuvalini, who recognize Furiosa as one of their own who was kidnapped as a child. They all ask about her mother, and she told them she was killed days after rescuing her. They share a moment of relief and delight for her return. The other crews emerge from the truck, acquainting themselves, and they ask why she came, and she claimed she came back home to the Green Place. Furiosa is devastated to learn that the swampland they passed was indeed the Green Place, now inhospitable and inhabitable. That night, Furiosa talks to Max about his plan from here on, and the group then plans to ride motorbikes across immense salt flats in the hope of finding a new home, a journey of at least 160 days. Max chooses to stay behind, but after seeing visions of a child he failed to save, he has a moment of clarity and races to intercept them to convince them to return to the undefended citadel, which has ample water and greenery that Joe keeps for himself, and trap Joe and his army in the Rock Riders Canyon. The group heads back to the citadel, but they are attacked en route by Joe's forces, who were resting and noticed their truck from a distance and immediately began to pursue it. They battle with most of Joe's warboys and henchmen, killing a lot, but before losing, several of the Vuvalini are killed, fighting off the warboys. They wrestle back and forth from explosive cars, derailing attacks, menacing shots, and near-death combat. Furiosa is stabbed and seriously wounded when trying to save Max, losing lots of blood. Joe positions his car in front of the truck to slow it, while Max fights Joe's giant son, Rictus Erectus. Joe captures Toast, but she distracts him long enough for Furiosa to rip off his breathing mask, killing him. Nux sacrifices himself by wrecking the truck, killing Rictus and blocking the canyon, allowing Max, Furiosa, the wives, and the Vuvalini to successfully escape in Joe's car. Furiosa is heavily wounded and is bleeding out, but Max transfuses his blood to Furiosa to help her survive her injuries. While he does so, he tells Furiosa his name, conveying a moment of trust and friendship. They arrive at the citadel, where Max walks out of the car to reveal Joe's dead body, shocking the warboys. But the impoverished citizens are overjoyed at the sight of Joe's corpse. Furiosa is brought out heavy laden, and Furiosa, the wives, and the Vuvalini are cheered by the people and welcomed by the warboys. The pipeline is open for water to flow for all. Max seems satisfied and redeemed, and so is Furiosa. Max walks away, sharing a glance of understanding and gratitude with Furiosa, before disappearing into the crowd. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode.